Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyam Devaah Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaistushtvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitan Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaah Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir dadatu Om Shanti 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishapahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are studying the third mantra, which is talking about the waking state. Jagrita sthano bahish pragyaha saptangaha ekona vimshati mukhaha sthula bhuk vaishwanaraha prathama padaha. So Vaishwanaraha prathama padaha. To see myself in a larger body is the prathama padaha. So it's really a question of how do I view myself? For the time being, I am viewing myself in a small body, with all the attendant issues with respect to that. But I don't have to. This is the thing. We all believe that we have to. We don't have to. We have a choice. And how we have to see ourselves in a larger body is what is being discussed here. So the Shastra doesn't leave you alone and said, oh, you have to see this is the bigger body. You're stupid. No, it just tells us, we understand that you have to grow into a larger understanding. And so that is the Prathama Padaha, that is the first step. So Vaishwanaraha is the totality of the Sthula Shariraha, of the Jagat. This is exactly what it is saying, Saptangaha. So it is not only the five major elements, but also Surya and Agni is also included in that. So that becomes 7 limbs. So if 5 limbs, you see, this is interesting. The 5 limbs can be taken to be that of a small body, Vishwa. The name of the small body, you and I, is Vishwa. It can be taken. But when you include Surya and Agni, which becomes 7 limbs, that only applies to Vaishwanara. I will see more details about this today. But anyway, just to start the conversation about the first step, the Shruti is explaining to us how we should see ourselves. And we'll get into that more. It'll be interesting to see some of the options that we can use to erase our drishti into Vaishwanaraha. So, so one thing that Swami Akhandananda has done is that if you look at how Surya, sun, with a pure light gets applied into distorted and multiple lights. He gave this example, very beautiful example, that of a rainbow called Indradhanush, Indradhanushaha in Sanskrit. It is called the bow of Indra. So we look at rainbow. What happens is that the pure light of the sun gets reflected in different ways. And because of the presence of the water vapor in the sky, it creates such a beautiful, I don't know how it is done really, to just look at the semicircular nature of it. And sometimes you see two of them at the same time. I have no idea how Ishvara does that. But in any case, the point is that the pure light of the sun gets reflected in many different ways. And in fact, one of the ways that it does is to create night and day. So the earth becomes an upadhi. So it changes the very nature of the sun to the point where it completely disappears. Complete darkness. And then there is partial darkness in a fog. So when there is fog, or when it is cloudy, you say, I don't see the sun. But it is the reflection, it is the light of the sun that you can make the conclusion that there is no sun. So there also there is a sun. So there is an interplay of darkness and light, rainbows, etc. What Swamiji was saying was that very similarly that is how the Chaitanya Swarupa of the Atma, which is pure consciousness, gets reflected in various ways. So if you want to see something, then the reflection of the pure consciousness is through the eyes. So becomes eye consciousness. It becomes rupa, becomes a form consciousness. And similarly, there is another consciousness of the ear. So it becomes sound consciousness. So the same jnanam, so the name of the consciousness which I much prefer to use is jnanam. I think you know why I do that, because when you say the word consciousness, then it becomes like a property. So it becomes like an adjective. But in fact, it's a noun. Jnanam is a noun. It is not an adjective. So when you say consciousness, that somehow you have a feeling, I have consciousness. I am the dravya, and I also possess some adjective called consciousness. But that is not the case. The dravya is the jnanam. And in fact, the so-called jiva is an adjective. See, this is so interesting. This will come up for a great detailed discussion later on in the Karika. Who is the dravya? What is the dravya and which is the adjective? What is the real noun? And the real noun is jnanam. And that jnanam gets reflected in various different ways, just like the sun. But anyway, going back to the the introduction of the sun and the fire, this completes the body of Vaishwanara. And we will see how I have to see myself. I have to see myself in the larger body. And so here, going back to the introduction of, in the last class, of Drishti Srishti. Drishti Srishti, which means that as I see, that is the picture. The picture is what I see it to be. So it's not as though the picture was already there and then I see it. See, this is the analysis that we have to really totally understand and really get to it. Because if I take myself to be a body and a mind and all the indriyas, and then I take myself to be a born person, see, all this will be greatly discussed. How the viewpoint, the false viewpoint, will be completely negated, and the true viewpoint will be introduced slowly, and then we have to see that. So one viewpoint is that I am a limited being born at a particular time in a srishti which was already there. My mom and my dad were already there, otherwise I would not be here. And their forefathers were here. And so makes sense that the whole srishti was already there. And so based on that, I have a certain drishti. I have a certain viewpoint that I am so-and-so, and I'm old, I'm young. And so this is the viewpoint of srishti drishti. And the implications are just immense of the contrast between them. Here in this advanced Vedanta, what we call Vedanta, PhD Vedanta, the vision presented is totally opposite. Totally opposite. And right now we're just introducing it, and it looks kind of, if you don't accept it, I congratulate you. You are okay. If you don't accept this and say, what is this? I don't understand this. How can it be? Then I'll say, you are okay. You are a sane person. But I also have to say, by the time we are done, if you don't see it this way, you please start all over again in some intermediate Vedanta. Because your vision should, don't know it will or not, but it should completely change over. Change over to what? You are seeing the world, therefore it is. This is just amazing. But you know, the entire, if I reviewed the Karika and Swami Akhandananda Ji's, I never really studied that with Swami Dayananda. I'm sure that he has exactly the same view of that, but I just haven't had the time to really read his book, and never studied that with him. But I was very fortunate to find somebody who I thought knows what he's talking about, and the more I study him, I can see that. But what I'm saying is that if you look at the entire Karika, 4 volumes of thick volumes of this 216 something like verses, slokas, this alternate viewpoint is clarified, consolidated, and adhered to in convincing manner. I'm not sure that I am absolutely a master of that yet, but I am a master of the fact that I've just said, this is it. This is exactly, because so many things start to make sense to me, which they didn't before. Click, click, click. Amazing. Then I start to think about it. And so the whole thinking process of drishti as the srishti is so, it fits everything so well. The whole jigsaw puzzle is complete. Amazing. Anyway, we'll look at this. Now, I'll start introducing some aspects of the drishti srishti as we go along. One of them is what is called Eka Jiva Vada. So there is also a Aneka Jiva Vada. Aneka Jiva Vada means there are multiple beings, which is obvious to us that there are different people, everybody is different, which is a Dvaita view. And then in the modified Advaita view, Vishishta Advaita, Advaita, Dvaita, Advaita, there are so many, they're all going to come. I don't know whether we will have time to really go through the details of it, but in the Karika, and especially Swami Akhandananda Ji's treatment, all of the various acharyas that have modified views of this, they say this is Advaita, but there are multiple jivas. There are multiple jivas. All that will be taken up. So there is a view of Aneka Jiva. Here, however, the Drishti Shrishti Vada can also be seen as Eka Jiva Vada. In fact, I think it's easier to pronounce it. Eka Jiva Vada means that this is the viewpoint that the whole cosmos, there is a single jiva. You can guess who that is. Anyway, we'll come to that, who that is. Eka Jiva Vada. So this Eka Jiva Vada also, so for example, I think one of the students had written to me on an email and saying, but what about others? They're also there. They're also seeing the world, just like I'm seeing the world. And if I just become Jivan Mukta, but the others are still there, what about them? So you cannot say that there's Eka Jiva Vada. No. There is no other Jiva. They are what is called Jiva Abhasa. This is discussed very early on, although this will be taken up in more detail later on. But I think just for those of you that are studying the Hindi version of this, I'm looking at page 138 of this book, of the Agama Prakaranam. So there is a preliminary discussion about multiple Aneka Jiva versus Eka Jiva. So there Swamiji says that the other jivas are Jiva Abhasa. They look like jivas. One can ask, aren't you taking a selfish view that you are the jiva and everybody else is a jiva abhasa? So here, one thing to consider, no, I'm not being selfish, I'm being truthful. There's a difference. How am I the jiva and the others are jiva abhasa? This is another thing that we should, I'd mentioned this to you a couple of classes ago, and this will be repeated many times until you get tired of me. Because when I really saw this made a big difference in my understanding, which is, I don't look upon this as me as this teacher of this class talking. No, I'm talking about I, the real I. Is the only one possible in the whole creation which can never be negated. Never negated. Non-negatable. Whereas everything else, see this for yourself. Just look at it from your standpoint. So the I is the same. You and I, the I of you and the I of I is the same. I'm talking from that standpoint. From that standpoint, don't you see? Again, pardon my language. I don't want to sort of sound as though I'm putting anyone down. Don't you see, or something like that. But I'm saying is, please see. Please see for yourself. Very simple logic. That you are the only one who is never not there. Never. Only one. Everyone can be there or may not be there. That is not the truthful existence. Sat Swarupa means it is never not there. That just belongs to the I. So therefore, we can now conclude from this small detour that we took that you are the only jiva. All the other jivas are actually jiva abhasa. Abhasa means they look like it. Why is that? How can we say that? Because they're not always there. They're sometimes there, sometimes not there. But does that apply to you? No, you're different. And don't keep going back to your body mind and say, how can I be always there? I'm not talking about the body mind. So educate your mind. Be disciplined about it. I'm talking about you, the jnanam. Atma jnanam. Everything else is distorted jnanam. Comes and goes. Swami Akhandananda says, even Ishvara. This will come a little bit more. Even Ishvara is dismissible because you don't see it. You see? Ishvara means some kind of a concept. Ultimately, what you'll have to see is that the content of Ishvara is the one that I'm talking about. So there is no difference between you and Ishvara. There's only one Jiva. Ek Jiva Vada. Another implication of this, just incredible how once I began to see the connection between the various concepts, starting with Drishti Shrishti. That is the underpinning of the whole thing. Ek Jiva Vada. That's the underpinning. Let's look at another aspect of that. How this is what's called advanced Vedanta. All the other previous ones, even though they appear to be right, have to be discarded. This whole topic we will discuss quite a bit. How can you said that in this book and in this book that there are various things and so on. Now you're negating all of it. Yes, we are doing that, and there is a reason for it. So another implication of this is very interesting. In the standard Vedanta, the satta means the ontological basis. Ontology means the analysis of what is there, what is not there, what is truth, what is not truth. It's called ontology. So in traditional Vedanta, we consider three kinds of satta, three kinds of beingness. And I think you should know that. Just think about it. Just let me pause for a minute, take a glass of water, and then you tell me what are the three sattas. And you know it already. So the three are Pratibhasika Sat, Vyavaharika Sat, and Paramarthika Sat. So, Pratibhasika Sat means one which is imagined. And imagined, personally imagined by a single individual, not shared by anybody, not shareable with anybody. It's have your own thoughts. This is called pratibhasa, pratibhasika. So here, ideas about people, ideas about yourself, ideas about situations and so on, these are your own personal ones. So this is called Pratibhasika Sat. Vyavaharika Sat means the Sat which is shared by multiple jivas. Very simple. Table. This is a table. This is not Pratibhasika. Because it's not my idea that this is a table. This is a shared idea of all of us. We know exactly what a table means. It means a flat surface above the ground, which is stable, at least 3 legs. That's what a table means. So this is called Vyavaharika Sat. So when we transact in life with Vyavahara, this is called transaction. Transactional truth. It's called transactional truth. Vyavaharika Sat. So transactions are based on things that we may have a component of pratibhasika. We may have a certain opinion about somebody. You know, like for example, if you like an individual and another person doesn't like the individual, those are pratibhasika. But that is an individual is vyavaharika. So these are the two different sat. Then comes paramarthika. Paramarthika means one which is never negated. Because vyavaharika sat also can be negated. There can be a table, the table can disappear. Pratibhasika, of course, means that it just, there is no real reality other than your thoughts. That's all, your viewpoint. And it's kind of like in a very subtle form, right? But Paramarthika Sat means there's only one truth. And the Paramarthika Sat doesn't mean that it is apparent to, it is known by everybody. It may not be known, but it is still there. So similarly, the Atma, which is the Paramarthika Sat, it is there, whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of consciousness or not, consciousness is there. This is the Paramarthika Sat. So there's 3 levels of Sat. The reason I'm pointing this out, very beautiful analysis by Swami Akhandananda. Now look at this. This is interesting. When you talk about Ekajiva Vada, Drishti Srishti Vada, there is only 2 levels of truth, not 3. Paramarthika is common to everybody. You cannot negate it. You may have some differences about the understanding of it, but once it is understood, it is there. Even if you didn't understand it, it was still there. So the Paramarthika is non-negotiable, of course. So that is one of the truth. In Ekajiva Vada, the Vyavaharika Sat is not there. This is enormously interesting and important to understand eventually. Very, very interesting, very important. What that means is there is no Vyavaharika Sat, there is no transactional truth, no intermediate level. There's only 2 things. One is Satyam and the other one is Asatyam. One is truth and the other one is imagined. Really? Well, what about the table? The table is not imagined, it is imagined. In the analysis of the Ekajiva Vada, it is imagined. We are capable of imagining it. We are imagining it. We just don't know it. That's all. So we get stuck in saying this is partially true. This is completely true. This is not true. This is partially true. There's no such thing as partially true. Either it is true or not true. The implications is mind-boggling, I'm telling you. This blow our mind, honestly, once we put our minds to it. How? Because all the things that I think about, this is what I'm saying, that if you don't accept this, I congratulate you. Even my parents, even the world around me is nothing but imagination. There is a real looking imagination. So there is already some degrees of imagination, but it's all imagination. You cannot violate it by saying this one is, because if you accept the Vyavaharika Sat, then everything becomes changing. Then the linealogy, the parents, Ishvara, and so on, that becomes Shrishti already there, and I'm just looking at as a Drishti. See? But Drishti Shrishti means that everything is really my Drishti. This is going to be taken up. I'm just telling you, I just branched off into just telling you how iconoclastic this is. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling or not, we have to really look at truth. And this is what the advanced Vedanta talks about. And it's not casually like, it was one Jivavada and then it walks away. No. There is advanced courses on proving all of this and proving that this is the only way that makes sense. Enormous implications of that, as we will see. Anyway, I just almost like it didn't feel like even presenting this in the beginning, and slowly coming up to it. But you know what? I think it's important for us to lay the groundwork, and it'll be easier for me to convey the vision that we are going to. And you cannot say that this is not the vision of the present self. You see, this is an interesting thing, because Swami Ekananda says, when we begin a journey, then our goal of where we are going should really be secondary. I mean, secondary means that we should know exactly where we're going, but then we can set it aside. Now, the main thing is, where am I now? And what steps do I need to take to get to this goal? That's where the focus is, isn't it? You're not really imagining that I'm going to Timbuktu and my mind is just full of that. No, you're thinking about how to go to the airport and which airport to go to before you go to Timbuktu right now. So similarly here also, even though we have a goal of Ishvara and Jiva being one, single Jiva, that is what it is, Eka Jiva Vada, all of that is there, but then I see where I am now. I see, according to what it is being talked about, that really I am imagining everything. This is a very sophisticated imagination. And this is where I think it is important that Ishvara has given us, because we would never ever believe in this. We'll have not even have a Shraddha towards this unless the dream was not there. What happens in the dream? that gives me the courage to keep going. And wow, I saw this definition somewhere in these books, and I talked about it in the last time, that the definition of a dream, the definition in Sanskrit is called paribhasha. So paribhasha means a clear-cut definition, which is unassailable, unnegatable. That's what is called a definition, paribhasha. So paribhasha of the word swapna or dream is the one that you cannot tell is not real until it is gone. Amazing. I'm really amazed at the reality of the dreams. Somehow I never used to, because I'm talking about it and teaching it and being involved with it. I'm very cognizant of the fact that I see the reality of the dream as it happens. It never really wakes me up as such, thank goodness. I don't have any nightmares. I may have some very uncomfortable situations that are there, which I don't like, but they're there. But what happens is sometimes I have to go to in the middle of the night to relieve myself, to go to the bathroom. And then immediately before that, there was some kind of a dream. So I lay there really just thinking about, my goodness, I thought this was it. That's the definition. That's the paribhasha of a dream, is that it knocks your socks off. So real it is. In its own time, it looks absolutely real. That is what a dream is. By the same token, by the same paribhasha, the waking state is also a dream. It doesn't last. It's a very funny situation. I was reading, I don't know, just digressing myself for 1 second. I'm not digressing, but it's relevant. But I was reading one of the books recently, and there was a story that it is in one of the I think in one of the Puranas, maybe Vishnu Purana or I forget what, Narada was a very well-known rishi with lots of powers and so on. So one couple came to him and said, "Sir, please help us. Our adult son suddenly died, and we are crestfallen. We don't know what to do." And he didn't even say goodbye to us. And you are a great rishi. Is it possible for you to revive this person? And just even for a few minutes, we know that Ishvara wanted to take him away. But can you please give us the chance to talk to him and just say goodbye to him? Is that possible? So Narada says, I'll try. So this is called Pretatma. So the Pretatma is where the body has died, but it has not been cremated yet, and so the soul of the person is still hanging around somewhere. It's called Pretatma. So Narada did his meditation, and he called this boy and said, I want you to please come back. Your parents are in deep shock and in deep sorrow, and they are expecting you to also to go, but they want to say goodbye to you. So please, can you please come back into the body? The body is still there. So this person replied, what parents are you talking about? I don't understand. I don't remember any parents. Previous life, this life, 10 lives, hey, they're all gone from my memory. So I don't know where to go. There the story ends. That's all, he said. And these Puranic stories, they have to be really, one has to put some Shraddha into it. So the point here is that our relationships and father and mother and parents and grandparents and so on, do we remember? There is a distant memory of the parents who may have passed away. And grandparents you may not have seen. Great-grandparents, forget it. And we have no idea. That's not what our life is. Life is at present, right in front. Here, another interesting thing, very, very interesting, very important thing about the Ekajivavada, related to this in some way. Let's see. In fact, I'll go to the book. When I read that was really mind-blowing. He said, I know which side of the page it was, but I don't know the page number. Oh, what happened? Ah, there it is. He says, एक जीववाद में परोक्ष सत्ता नहीं मानी जाती। अज्ञात पदार्थ कुछ नहीं है, जो है सब ज्ञात ही है। Just 2 sentences, just 3 sentences. This follows a review of the Shankara Bhashya, which I was going to come to later on, but I thought I would point it out there now with respect to the fact that everything is an imagination. Okay. So again, he says, एक जीव वाद में, वाद in Hindi it will be वाद में, not वादा. एक जीव वाद में परोक्ष सत्ता नहीं मानी जाती. Means that in the view of एक जीवा, single individual, there is no such thing as parokshata. Everything is aparoksha, right in front of you. This is a very beautiful, interesting way to explain drishti srishti. What you are looking at, it is, that is the reality. There is no reality beyond it. And that reality also is you alone. That we will tackle later on. How this reality is me alone. But the fact of the matter is, see, just like, this is another way of expressing that there is no such thing as Vyavaharika Sat. It is only Paramarthika Sat. I'm sorry, only Paramarthika Sat and Pratibhasika Sat. What Pratibhasa is, you make that into a reality. But please remember this as we go through this course. There will be so many instances of the implications of this as I lead my life. How should I lead my life? It's not a question of theory and practice or anything. But to view the life in this way is freedom, as we will see. So this is what Eka Jiva Vada is. This same sentence we will come back to later on when we tackle. Perhaps we can even do that today, I don't know. But I have other things that I wanted to talk about. So anyway, so in the explanation of this verse, Jagrita Sthano Bahishpragyaha Saptangaha. So Saptangaha means the 7 limbs pertain to, now you know, to Vaishwanaraha, not to Vishwa. So that chart that I had shown you last time, one of the students had requested that I put that on, and perhaps I can even do that on YouTube directly. If not, then I'll make a file and refer to it. So anyway, so in the Jagrata Avastha we have Vishwa, which is the Vyashti Abhimani, and Vaishwanara, which is Samashti Abhimani. The microcosmic identification and macrocosmic identification. So the Saptangaha refers to Vaishwanaraha. And furthermore, the same thing that pertained to the Vyashti Abhimani also appears to be in the Samashti Abhimani in terms of the limbs. Ekona Vimshati Mukha. So it has 19 different, not limbs, sorry. The limbs were 7, but what is called Upalabdhi Sthanam. Upalabdhisthana means where do I find it? What appearance do I have? How does it appear to me? Not what appearance I have, that's wrong. But how does it appear to me? So it appears to me in 19 different ways. And those are 5 Jnana Indriya, ears, eyes, skin, nose, and the organ of taste. 5 Karma Indriyas, hands, feet, organ of excreting water, organ of excreting solids, and the mouth for eating as well as talking. These are the 5 organs of action. Then you have the 5 physiological functions: prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, circulation, breathing, etc., etc. Physiological. So 5 and 5 and 5, 15, plus the 4 different forms of thinking. Really the same manaha, but it does have 4 distinct functions. So those are traditionally understood as manaha, buddhi, memory, and ahankara, the I thought. And so Swami Akhandananda actually gives it a little bit more commentary. I'll just briefly describe it. I need to go on. So one is called Sankalpa Atmaka Manaha. So Sankalpa Atmaka Manaha means, this is the traditional definition of mana. Mana means to think, to imagine, to give up, to take up, normal thinking. This is called Sankalpa Atmaka Manaha. The second one is Nirnaya Atmaka Manaha. Nirnaya Atmaka. So it's called Buddhi, wisdom. So this is, the mind says, I think that this table it's fake table. It's not real wood. I think so. I'm not sure, but I think this is fake table. It's like plastic. So the Buddhi says, well, let me look. No, this is wood. Just like you look at some beautiful flower and the Manaha says, wow, what a beautiful flower, and the Buddhi says, fake flower. So the Buddhi is the same thinking, but Nishchayatmika means absolutely I know, no argument, let's go ahead. Don't waste your time. It's called Nishchayatmika. Then the third one is Samskaratmika. This is also very important. I think we will see much more of this in the future, which is classified as memory. But it is much more than memory. It means impressions left on my mind that guide it in thinking. So the impressions mean it doesn't have to be memory of a specific fact, but a combination of all the factors that have happened to me that guide what my current thinking is. Which means whether I am tolerant of people or not, am I impatient, am I giving, am I selfish, what my tendencies are is an accumulation of a lot of previous experiences. So this is what is called Sanskara Atmaka Mana, called Chitta. The last one is Sanchalaka. Sanchalaka means the one that keeps everything going. So here Swami Akhananda gives a beautiful example. He says, you know, in the dream, you have the blood flowing. So very interesting, because in the dream, actually, I'm sorry, I'm talking in the deep sleep, not dream. In the deep sleep, you don't have sankalpatmaka manaha. Mana is absent. There's no mind. There's definitely no nishchayatmika manaha. And though no samskaratmika manaha. None of them are there in deep sleep. In fact, the mind is completely absent. Yet, something keeps your blood flowing. Something keeps your nails growing. Something keeps your hair growing. Something is there. So this is called ahankara. Some relevance to who you are as a person. And this is very interesting. From a samashti standpoint, Vaishwanaraha is the sanchalakaha. Just like a Vishwa is the sanchalakaha when there is complete absence of everything else. Similarly, on a macro standpoint also, Vaishwanaraha keeps things going. And then things going means that the thoughts, there's a totality of thoughts. There's a totality of emotions. It all comes from Vaishwanara. Of course, this is more in the case of Hiranyagarbha. This comes from Hiranyagarbha later on. But the Hiranyagarbha and Vaishwanara are pretty much the same person. So just like you, in the Sthula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira are pretty much the same person. But the point here is that there is in fact macro level originator of thoughts. You know, this is an example I think you may have seen me give. When I first heard that, I was very taken in by that. And I've given that example to you. You look at, just think about this. You look at a young girl who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a baby, becomes a mother, a girl becoming a mother. And when the girl becomes a mother, there is a unique love that is given to the baby. Unique love, which remains throughout the life. We have talked about this before. There is nothing like the love of a mother. Nothing like it. Totally unique. Absolutely subtle and beautiful. So the question is that this feeling of love for the baby, is that individually manufactured? There's something to think about. Are we depending on, does the pediatrician specify that, you know, you have to change the baby and you've got to do this? Does she says you have to love the baby? By the way, there is a handbook on page, chapter number 7, on page 68. There is growing a love for the baby. Is that necessary? No. It is not manufactured individually. Where does it come from? Hiranyagarbha, from the Samashti. So this is what is called not a bottoms-up creation, but a tops-down creation. We've talked about this before, that a bottoms-up creation is like building a house with bricks. But the waviness in the ocean, it is not created by the wave. It is given to it. And so this is the samashti. And if I appreciate that, if I see it, I am already growing bigger in my understanding. I'm going beyond my own body and my own functions and beginning to appreciate the larger truth about the whole thing. So here, I might conclude the class. Let me conclude the class. It's only a few more minutes left with the following discussion. So we've already understood that the Chatushpad, the fourfold, so the Chatushpadatvam, the fourfoldness, is not just to an individual, it is also there for the entire creation. In other words, not just for Vyashti, but it is also for Samashti. We will see this later on, that all the other aspects like Adhyatmika, Adi Daivam, Adi Bhutam, all those aspects apply to both Vyashti and Samashti. There's complete congruence between them. So we'll look into that a little bit more, but just to conclude this one thing, and I just want to leave these thoughts with you, that the Prathama Pada, first step, is to go from Vishwa to Vaishwanara. We've already seen that. The way to approach, this is really approaching Ishvara. But the first step to approach Ishvara is to understand Vaishwanara. To understand that my body is not just Vishwa, it is Vaishwanara. There are two ways to look at it. Okay? Two ways to look at it. I'll just summarize it for now, and then we will look into more details as we proceed further. One way is the manifestation of the world in front of me. And that manifestation in front of me, if I begin to appreciate that there is some order in the whole thing. In fact, there is, just like there is the 5 elements that I am made out of. They are in fact 5 elements in the whole creation. Not only that, there is in fact some kind of a structure. There is a feet. There is a stem. Dyuloka means that there is some wisdom in the whole creation. There is there is light in the whole creation. There is eyes in the whole creation. There is heat in the creation. Just like I have, my own body also needs to have all these constituents. I need to have heat. And I need to have light so that I can see. I need to have eyes. I need to have a body, feet. So something similar to that is going on that I have been oblivious to. And so it doesn't mean that you have to visualize and say, do you see the feet of the whole thing? No, that's not it. But there is a structure. There is, in fact, an order in the whole creation, very similar to the order that I have. So this is one way to soften my clinging. So this is what I said, Shithali karomi. Shithali karanam means that I loosen the bonds of my being limited. I cut the bonds, or at least be open to the idea of the whole world. So this is one thing. Okay? And how far you and I are successful in it, we don't know. It all depends on our growth, our potential, our desires, all of that. But at least we should move in that direction. Just like, for example, just the appreciation of the maternal love being there already, and as soon as the girl becomes a mother, it is invoked. It is already invoked, which is already there. Just like that, it broadens your thinking about the world. So this is one thing. The second one is, I think, easier, more effective, more mind-boggling. And that is, you are the seer of the entire creation. Are you not? Can you deny it? And in that manner, the entire body, your entire body is also part of the entire cosmos. And you are a seer of that. You are a seer of the entire cosmos at all times. No matter how the cosmos is changing, how the presentation is changing. Sometimes it is Jagrata Avastha. Sometimes it is Swapna Avastha. But leave aside that for a minute. That will come later. Just look at the Jagrata Avastha. Just the waking state. Are you not seeing the entire thing? At all times? And is it not arbitrary? That I wouldn't say arbitrary. But don't you see that just like you have concluded that I am only up to here, that I am my body, if you look at yourself as the Sakshi of the entire creation, can you deny that? And the creation is nothing compared to you. It is not Sat, because it keeps going, changing. But you, the Sakshi, as we said earlier, is much superior. Because you can never negate it. Never. Swayam Siddha. Swayam Jyoti Sarvagya. This is the second method of relating to Vaishvanara. That you are the Sakshi of the Vaishvanara. We'll continue on this next class. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. What I would suggest is that, as I've done before, I'm sure that you have questions on these things, and you might just send me a email and ask if something that is not clear to you, and I'll be happy to respond to that. I think it's getting late. One of the students had sent me an email saying that my answer to an earlier request about a person who was not happy with the job and so on, what to do, whether that situation can also apply to interpersonal relationships, either within the family or close by, and what are some of the issues with respect to that. I was going to talk about that tonight, but since it's getting late, I will discuss that on the Saturday morning class. Okay? All right, with that, I take your leave, and hopefully we'll see you in the next class. Hari Om.